week was well. My week was all right. I mean, obviously, I had a rough patch in the middle of the week. I made a live about it, but we're towards the end now, so doing my best to let that go. Even though it's something that's still kind of lingering, unfortunately, but it is what it is. So, the title that I put here is How They Treat You is How They Feel About You. I remember back in the day, not even back in the day, even fairly recently, I remember being really naive in a sense of if somebody says something to me that sounds really convincing, I want to just automatically give them a benefit of the doubt. In this particular case, I mean, like, if somebody was treating me a certain way, and then, I told them I don't like the way that they're treating me, and then they told me something that was really, really convincing sounding, they didn't mean it, or I'm taking it the wrong way, that's not really how it is, I'd be like, maybe it is just me. But I started to realize over time that how they treat you is how they feel about you. And your intuition and your gut is usually correct. I remember a particular scenario back when I decided that I wanted to take a stab at being a photographer full time, about 6 years ago. I always had an interest in photography. I remember back when I was a teenager, or even less than a teenager, going to summer camp, and we used to have those point and shoot cameras, and then I would always take the photography class at summer camp, where we get to take the pictures and then we get to go to the dark room in the lab and develop our own pictures. That was always a really cool thing for me, and I always had a love for videography and photography. I didn't actually want to do it as a job or career, but I just enjoyed doing it. And I remember I started to take my camera into the gym and take some pictures of some different gym activities and gym functions. And then I would post those pictures and videos on Facebook and Instagram and different social media platforms. And I remember a lot of people telling me, these are really good. Have you ever considered doing media as a career? And I was like, yeah. I mean, I was like, no, I definitely have not considered doing it as a career. It's just a hobby for me. Until somebody told me, I have this event coming up and I would like for you to be the person who captures it. And it's like, I've never done that before. I guess I can try. So I came, I did the event, and it went well. It went pretty well. And then I was like, all right, maybe this is something that I can do as a side gig, is what I was thinking at that particular point in time. And then I started to get other jobs. The original people who told me that I have a talent for that and that I should consider doing it as a career, I did a whole bunch of things for them for free. They didn't pay me for any of those. And that's cool, because I was just starting out. And at the beginning of anything, you have to start somewhere. So at the beginning, I was just doing it for the experience and the exposure. But then after a certain point, I was doing it as a job for money. And then these people started to get upset that I was no longer either A, available to do their events whenever they wanted me to do their events, and B, I was no longer willing to do it for free. I mean, I was willing to give them a discount and do it for less than I would charge a stranger, but I was not willing to do it for free because it was still a job. It still took my skill, it still took my time, etc. So I remember starting to feel like, I think these people don't value me, and I think these people are using me. And then a particular thing happened, which I won't get into the specifics of it, but I used to always make excuses for these people and be like, you know what? It's probably not what it looks like. It's probably not what it looks like. And then I just decided to just mention it straight up. Like, I feel like things are like this. And the response that I got confirmed everything that I was thinking. And the only thing I was thinking at that point was, why didn't I trust my gut sooner and listen to myself sooner? Because it's simple. We're human beings. We have emotions. Sometimes something that is very logically one way, you know that it's actually this way, but your mind and your heart doesn't want to accept that. And that's been the case for me in a lot of instances, which is why now I'm very prone to pay attention to how I feel about something and to look at the example of what the other party or parties is showing me. Because anyone can say anything. I use this example. I remember one of my friends, we both went to the same high school, we were roommates in college, and he got this job at Sony out of college that he was not qualified for. So I remember getting a call from Sony. They were like, hi, is this Mark? And I'm like, yes. And they were like, and I'm calling on behalf of such and such person that said that you were their boss at such and such an organization. And mind you, me and that person have never worked together in life. I never worked at that organization, and I did not know what they were talking about. And I was very hesitant, but I was like, yeah. And I was like, I hope they don't ask me any follow-up questions. So what happened is he listed me as one of his references. Made up this company. Well, not made up the company, but the company was something that was no longer in business that he had worked at one point, but I never worked at. And he got the job. And I was saying to myself, wow. So he got into the job, and then he was telling me when he started at the job, they asked him to do certain things that he said that he knew how to do in his interview. And he said that he was going on Google every day trying to figure out what it was that he had to do. But anyways, he succeeded at that job apparently and got promoted. But my point of saying that is to say, something that he told me was like, Mark, it's not about the degree that you got in school. It's not about really how smart you are. It's about your ability to sell yourself to the employer in the interview. And I was like, wow, that's a crazy way to think, is what I was thinking. But years later, I can say he was absolutely right. So this is the thing about people. People are salesmen and women. So it's not about what they tell you, it's about what they show you. That's the key. That's the key of everything that I'm trying to say. Pay attention to what they show you, not what they tell you. Time and consistency is what shows you who a person is. Somebody can do something one time and it can be considered out of character. This is not normally how they are. I can think of an instance of my own where I did something that was out of character. A couple of them, actually. I mean, there's more than a couple, but there's two that come to mind where I did something out of character, and the people that I did those things to knew that those things are out of character, so they were able to let that go. Not necessarily let it go, but at least give me the opportunity to make that up and, kind of wipe the slate clean. Like, this is not typically who Mark is, and there were circumstances that were behind him acting this way or doing this thing, so I can move on from that and accept an apology and move on. But if there's like 3, 4, 5 instances with the same person, in that case, it's like, that's your baseline. That is not out of character. And normally, in hindsight, they say hindsight is 20/20, but normally in hindsight, you can look back to almost any scenario that you've been hurt. Not all, but I would say 80-85% of the scenarios where you have been hurt by somebody, and you can trace back multiple different things that would lead you to believe that that person was capable of that thing, or that would show you that they have executed this type of same behavior in the past. And then you're like, why didn't I pay attention to these signs? Because we meet people, we connect with them, we bond with them, and then when they start to show us their selves, their true selves, a lot of times our feelings get in the way of paying attention to what they're showing us. So always pay attention to what they show you instead of what they tell you. I hope everyone has a great Friday, and we'll talk again soon.